Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for attending the October Transportation UAZ events. Transportation U is a national hands-on interactive mentoring program that offers young girls ages 13 through 18 an introduction to a wide variety of transportation careers. It is connected to Women's Transportation Seminar, or WTS, which is a women's organization for transportation professionals. I am Michael Book, a strategic communication specialist in HDR's Phoenix office. HDR is an international company specializing in engineering, architecture, environmental, and construction services. If you ever have any program or event questions, you can send me an email at michael.book@hdrinc.com. My email address is being placed in the chat right now. This event is also supported by Varsha Ravichandran, event specialist at WTS International, and Bree Balke, community relations coordinator at Valley Metro. At this time, I would like to ask if you are a teacher hosting a group of students to please send me an email with your school, city, and the list of participating students. So at the end of the program, we will be randomly drawing one student's name to win a prize. And if you're a student who is logging in on your own, then you can also type your school, city, and name in the chat to be able to win a prize as well. So I would like to briefly discuss the Transportation U program. Each month throughout the school year, there will either be an online speaker or an online facility tour. There's nothing scheduled during the summer months. You can always stay connected to learn about upcoming events or recorded sessions by connecting on Facebook or Instagram using the keywords Transportation UAZ. Our next event is scheduled for Tuesday, November 16th at 3 p.m. Arizona time with Paul Basha, who is a traffic engineering manager at Summit Land Management. The registration link is not yet available, but you can always send an email to me and I will provide it to you when I can. And now for today's event. Dr. Sara Khoeini is an assistant research professor of transportation systems in the School of Sustainable Engineering and the Built Environment at Arizona State University. She is also the assistant director of TOMNET University Transportation Center. Dr. Khoeini is studying users' attitudes, behaviors, and choices in response to transformative and disruptive changes in transportation, including automation, the sharing economy, and most recently, the pandemic. Her research goal is to take advantage of these rapidly evolving transformations in transportation to elevate the quality of life for all, while advancing system-level sustainability, efficiency, and productivity. Dr. Khoeini, so glad for you to be able to join us today to present to our group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks for inviting me to this session. It's always a pleasure to talk to young professionals like our high school students. And thanks for introduction. So my name is Sara Khoeini, and I'm presenting also on behalf of TOMNET, which is a University Transportation Center at Arizona State University. And one of our mission is to promote K-12 education. And I hope this presentation helps with that mission. By that, I will go ahead and get started. A brief introduction about my presentation is that I'm going to walk through transportation systems from early modes of transportation system to where we are right now and where we are headed in the future. So by that, let me see. Okay, so starting from early modes of transportation system, when we had horses, and after using horses and by invention of wheels and motors, little by little, step by step, roads were shaping, and then pavement on the roads were shaping, and then people started to travel between the places, and their accessibility and mobility to different places and resources were getting increased. And then again, vehicle industry started to shape, and then that vehicle industry ranges from a simple Mercedes, the first Mercedes-Benz picture that you can see here, to early transit systems like this. This is the old San Diego streetcar, to smoke trains, to for the movement of freight, and by that in business and industry and commerce and everything were shaping. So from old days to nowadays, all of our various aspects of our life are very much dependent on our transportation system. And we cannot ignore how the quality of the transportation system has a direct and enormous impact on the quality of life of people. By saying that, we are now in our transportation system with U.S. interstate system that is moving many people and freight around the transportation system. Like I just want to showcase U.S. interstate system as a great and major transportation infrastructure system that it is existing right now. It was built under the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 and funded by the federal government. And the idea for interstate highways came from Eisenhower. And so right now there are over 42,000 miles of interstate highways in the United States. So this is, and they are moving people and freight around. And then our vehicle industry has advanced a lot in terms of the fuel. We have our vehicles are consuming gasoline. We have hybrid vehicles that consume gasoline, but also can produce electricity with that gasoline that has been used, and also and use the electricity. So we are producing more efficient cars right now, and we are starting to use electricity instead of gasoline to produce energy for our vehicle system through plug-in hybrid electric vehicles and full electric vehicles. So whatever you want, there are many features, many advanced features of our vehicles, that are fascinating people to use them. So I just want here to say that our vehicle industry has been advanced tremendously, and with features like passenger capacity, cargo capacity, automated driving assistant features, entertainment features, up to the place that the brand of the vehicle is becoming very important right now, in addition to the mobility that it provides. Right now, beside road transportation and vehicle transportation, we are in the transportation industry, we are dealing with all categories of infrastructure. And this is how ASC is highlighting different forms of American infrastructure in infrastructure report card. So we have aviation, airports, bridges, broadband. So all of the communication is part of the transportation, dams, drinking water system, energy systems, hazardous waste, how we manage our waste material, waste produced, inland waterways, levees, public parks, ports, rail, roads, school, solid waste, stormwater, transit systems, wastewater. So transportation system is beyond only road and vehicles, and includes all of these infrastructure and how we manage them, operate them, design them, provide energy to them, and so on. So if we want to produce, define a general and comprehensive definition for the transportation system, we have to consider all 5 modes of the transportation system. Starting from road, we have cars, buses, bikes, motorcycles, walk on the road. We have rail, we have water, we have air and airplanes and pipelines. So when we talk about transportation systems, we are actually talking about all these 5 modes of transportation. And then when we want to design and manage transportation system, comes the transportation engineering. Based on the definition of Institute of Transportation Engineering, transportation engineering is the application of technology and scientific principles to the planning, functional design, operation, and management of facilities for any mode of transportation. And the goal is to provide the safe, efficient, rapid, comfortable, convenient, economical, and environmentally compatible movement of both people and goods. So, so this was just a story of multimodal transportation system definition, what is transportation engineering. And now let's look at our current transportation systems and see what advances we are right now taking advantage of. I want to talk about the systems that have already been implemented right now in our current infrastructure system. So right now we are the huge kind of various technologies that are all defined under the umbrella of intelligent transportation system has made our transportation system very efficient in terms of communication between different pieces of the transportation system, communication between vehicles and infrastructure and vehicle with people and with the operator. And you can see in this picture how all different pieces of transportation system are very nicely connected. And then it comes from like dynamic traffic signals, dynamic traffic signs, toll collection, travel assistance systems, fleet management, adaptive cruise control, crash avoidance system. And then all of these connections are the major fascinating feature of the current transportation system, that as much as we get this advantage of this feature, we can move toward more efficiency, energy saving, reducing the impact on the environment, and so on. The other feature of the other highlight that I want to bring up today is how we manage our transportation system. Using all the advances in the area of computer and machine learning, we are able to manage our traffic system through active traffic management system by simulations and by all the videos that have been collected from along the arterials and along the transportation system. Through we are actively managing our transportation system. So these are like this video is showing a from the VSIM software, which is a traffic simulation software. It is showing how a ramp metering system is actually managing the traffic. And for example, if the traffic on the main highway increases, we can actively change the timing of the ramp metering system so that we can effectively manage the traffic. Or on the other hand, if the traffic on the arterial has increased, then we can again revise that. So this is how that connectivity, this is how that intelligent transportation system that I showed you in the previous slide is actually performing in real time, in the field, in the practice right now, to have a more efficient transportation system. So on different, like the same technique applies to managed lane, HOV and HOT lane. So you know that HOT lane or toll lanes are the lanes that you need to pay a toll to use them. And those lanes are trying to provide a free flow speed to toll payers. And the toll of those lanes are dynamic so that they can increase or decrease. So for example, during the rush hour, when the demand for toll lanes increases, those toll amount also, when the demand increases, the toll amount also increases, so that they always provide a free flow speed. And this is a variable speed control, again, based on the demand. As a function of the demand, the speed also changes. And other features of the highway, I mean, other traffic features of the highway. And there is another features of the, that I want to highlight here is temporary use of shoulder lanes. For example, you see that there is a shoulder lane on the highway, but based on the demand, if it's needed, that shoulder lane can be used for another lane at specific hours of traffic, and then again, it can so it can change the function of that lane. So so let me go to the next slide. This is congestion pricing that I can show the application of it in the video. We have different forms of congestion pricing right now, and we use cost right now to actually manage the demand for certain parts of our transportation system, whether it is a lane, whether it is a route or a highway, or whether it is an area through cordon pricing, like a cost to enter a central business district of a city. Another great, another disruptive and significant change in our transportation system that is happening right now, and it is underused right now, is mobility on demand services. That you don't need that mobility under these services. Are defined as a service that you can request anytime you want on your phone, rather than mobility is to be your car, that you should always own it and to be parked in front of your house. So like in this diagram, mobility on demand. So Anna passes on her travel request to the mobility on demand system via app. So on her phone, he requests a ride. A few minutes later, a shuttle comes in front of her house. She gets on the car. She can actually get access to a train station, so that when she gets off the shuttle, take the right train, and then in the train go to the office, again from the office to the train, to the shuttle, to the home. And the goal is that Anna can plan all of her trip in terms of timing and the cost through one app. In some parts of the world, it has been implemented, not in everywhere, but the Uber and Lyft are an example of mobility on demand services that most people have many people actually have experienced, right? And then these on-demand services right now is going beyond just mobility. So so we have ride hailing, here it says e-hailing, we have and carpooling, but we also have food delivery, we also have goods delivery, or freight delivery, we have car sharing, bike sharing, e-scooter sharing, all of those micro mobility services. We have, and then other services that you can request on your phone. So this is kind of a revolution that is happening, that I will talk later, but pandemic is kind of also fastened the route of these on-demand services. Along all of these technological advances that are happening right now, and we are getting advantage of them, some serious challenges we are also facing as well. One of the most important one is environment, climate change, sustainability. All of them I put under one slide, meaning that we are still using our energy of our transportation system is not 100% clean. This is a green transportation pyramid. So walking is the best mode of transport, the most green mode of transportation, and then bike, then public transport, then taxis, and then cars, carpool and car. But most of our travel is with car or ride hailing, and then honestly, transit and walk and bike doesn't have a significant portion of our transportation system. So our existing transportation system has, as you can see, has so far had significant negative impact on environment and all of the climate change consequences of that problem that we are facing right now is getting more and more important, that we should think about. We should considering and think about it as we move forward and plan for the next changes in transportation system. The other challenge of our transportation system is the infrastructure, resiliency of our infrastructure system. Remember that I explained that our transportation system goes beyond just roads and cars, right? It covers all different modes and infrastructures. And American Society of Civil Engineers under infrastructure report card has graded various categories of our infrastructure in the US with these grades. And you can see the overall grade is C-, which is not good. And then you can see the grades of other categories. So our infrastructure is getting old, and natural disasters are kind of increasing the chance of disaster as well as the age of our infrastructure, and this really needs attention of how we are managing the existing infrastructure. The other challenge, as well as maybe in some way opportunity of our transportation system, is the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Like, as you know, it's more than a year now. It's almost we are getting close to 2 years of that being through this pandemic, and this pandemic in the beginning has shut down the entire transportation system, but step by step, we are getting back to a new normal. But the question is, how will that new normal look like? And there are still many uncertainties. But there is a study, the study has been done and it is still ongoing by ASU and University of Illinois at Chicago to study the impacts of the pandemic on travel behavior and people lifestyle. It's a panel survey. You can go to the website to get more information, covidfuture.org. But like what we have found so far is that it is our survey has shown some trend that defensible trends that it is going to be permanent increase in the rate of working from home, which is very important when we are planning for our transportation system in an urban area. Increase in e-commerce, it's going to stick to some extent, and so people decrease their use of transit and shared mode of transportation, and then they haven't get back to they haven't get back to use of these shared modes as they were prior to the pandemic. And when they are going to do that, we are uncertain. The other impact of the pandemic was on decrease in air travel, in both personal and business air travel. In personal air travel, we are getting close to pre-pandemic, but we have not yet get to the pre-pandemic rates of business air travel. So with no doubt, pandemic impacted some serious and significant impacts on transportation system, and to what extent those impacts are going to stick is the question that this study is trying to answer. And the other challenge that we are facing every now and then, almost every day, you hear about some natural disaster that is happening in some part of the world, and climate change and sustainability is for sure one of the reasons for that these natural disasters to happen, and then how they impact our transportation system, how we have to work on the resiliency of transportation system is very important. So I explained a little bit about the challenges as well as the opportunities and advances that we are facing right now in the transportation system. And now I want to move to future of transportation system and how our future of transportation system is going to look like. For that, I want to play this video by Transportation Research Board. And then I want to invite all of you to listen to this video and then raise your questions in the Q&A and during the Q&A, because it is going to present interesting insights for the future.
I'm not able to hear the video. I know that when we tested it, we had it playing some.
I think maybe, Doctor, if you take yourself off of mute, maybe that will make it so we can hear.
So let me play it again.
It's the whole industry. Every little thing that we do is in the effort to help someone else.
There we go.
And if that's who you are on the inside, I think it's a great industry for you to find that.
You're helping people. You're changing
Oh, sorry.
society. You're changing the planet.
What will the transportation of tomorrow look like? This evolution requires new ways of thinking, from new ranks of inventive thinkers, and from another century of continued support and leadership from the Transportation Research Board. What radical ideas will define our future?
Smart cars, connected cars,
Flying cars, teleportation. We could be doing that.
we really are making this up as we go along.
What will vehicles look like? What will power them?
Do we not use the traditional fuel anymore? Do we use alternate energy?
How will we navigate the roadways?
There are traffic control nightmares out there that we haven't even conceived of yet.
Will we even have roadways? It's difficult to be certain. What we do know is this: to serve as the foundation of our future, transportation must be transformative, sustainable, safe, and secure. How will we enable the transformative changes that await us?
The 3D printing essentially enables us to free ourselves from traditional manufacturing processes using this automated equipment as opposed to human labor.
We can expect drones to be commonplace, not only for deliveries, but also for infrastructure inspection and maintenance. Autonomous travel will become routine, but for all their rich and abundant promise, these and other innovations also promise to be disruptive.
We can't even predict exactly what those modes are, much less what their effects are going to be yet.
The implications of autonomous vehicles will ripple through fields as diverse as emergency medicine, insurance, and legal services.
We definitely need to look at those ADA standards, that everybody has access to that transportation solution.
How will we untangle transportation's impact on our climate and our personal well-being and balance competing interests at the same time?
The profession is changing. It's not just about building roads or building pavements. It's about making sustainable cities and making sure that things work for the economy, the environment, and health.
To have a sustainable network requires using the right ingredients and sometimes reusing them.
We don't want to take a lot of those natural resources again and again and again. And that's when the recycling comes really critical.
Bike sharing, car sharing, ride sharing, bring all these modes together for sustainable transportation.
How do we create the safeguards to ensure our protection?
The greatest aspiration looking forward to the next 50 years would be zero deaths on all public roads.
But threats to our personal security aren't limited to the roadway. Data protection will become increasingly important.
The more valuable information is, the more people will want to steal it.
Even national security comes into play as cross-border shipping evolves and becomes routine. Some things remain constant. Our economic prosperity and quality of life will continue to rely on transportation. Transportation improvements will continue to rely on research, creation of new ideas, innovative approaches to old and new problems.
So many new things happening in the transportation world that weren't true 20 years ago.
Only one thing about tomorrow seems certain: the future of transportation won't be a simple extension of its past.
We're going to end up with an industry that is more diverse than any other industry that I think is out there. Mainly because our problem touches everyone.
Tomorrow's transportation leaders, with help from the Transportation Research Board, will define our future by disseminating knowledge, promoting diversity, and transferring technology.
This is the time for us to dip our toes in new waters and figure out what we're passionate about. You can write your own destiny.
You're making the world a better place.
You can save your own little piece of the world.
Yes, so thank you for listening. I really like this 5-minute video because very well presents all the future future advances of transportation system and hear the thoughts of the leaders of the field of how the future will look like. So we talked about autonomous vehicles, shared on-demand services, electrification of the transportation fleet in the future, information and connectivity, hyperloop and air taxis, robotic deliveries, and so on. And you know, the whole goal and the main challenge and question is how to get advantage of the new technological advances in solving the existing challenges in transportation. So if anyone is interested to join the transportation field in the future, this is the main question that you are trying to face as a professional in transportation in the upcoming years. So I want to say it's less about building and construction, and it's more about how to managing existing infrastructure and systems using the advances in technological advances. And then I just also want to highlight one of the key projects of TOMNET University Transportation System that we did along studying the advances in transportation system. It's called TOMNET Transformative Transportation Technologies T4 survey. If you go to the TOMNET website, which I will show at the end, you can see more presentations and outputs of this project. But basically, this project was a survey that we did in Phoenix, Atlanta, Austin, and Tampa metro area during 2019, pre-pandemic, using an online instrument to study users' perceptions, attitudes, and choices toward autonomous vehicles and mobility on-demand services. And we got more than 3,000 responses. So for example, this is how much people are familiar and using mobility on-demand services. Like the first column on the left is private ride-hailing, like Uber and Lyft. 11% of people we have found that are not familiar with this system. 34% are familiar, and 39% are using them very rarely, and only 16% are using them frequently on a monthly or weekly basis. And the other columns represent shared ride-hailing, car sharing, bike sharing, and e-scooter sharing. And we also ask about autonomous vehicles, how much people are familiar with them. We got a pretty much 50-50 response, like half of the people have never heard of them or have heard but don't know much about autonomous vehicle, while the other half of the respondents are somewhat familiar or very familiar with the autonomous vehicles, and 1% of our respondents have actually taken a ride in an autonomous vehicle. And then we have found that in terms of willingness to buy autonomous vehicle, 5% want to be early adopters of autonomous vehicle, and 57% will eventually buy autonomous vehicle, and 38% never want to buy autonomous vehicle. So these are how we have just wanted to show this graph that show you how current research are trying to study user choices toward the future. So in order to get prepared when these technology actually become available in the market. I wanna, as through the presentation, you could see how different disciplines are impacting transportation, and how transportation is impacting different aspects of our human life. Along that, transportation engineering can be defined along many disciplines. In addition to civil engineering, which is the core field of studying transportation engineering, there are other disciplines that you can go and still study transportation engineering. I want to also introduce you to two societies. One is ITE, Institute for Transportation Engineer, and one is ASC, American Society of Civil Engineering, and then TNDI is the group for transportation. If you are interested to be among transportation professionals and learn more about transportation engineering. And then I want to end by this slide highlighting that Arizona State University School of Sustainable Engineering and the Built Environment is a very good, has a very good civil engineering program. And the latest ranking of the undergraduate studies of civil engineering is 17 in the nation, and environmental engineering also 17 in the nation. And then transportation research in ASU is very high-end and very various across different domains. There is a website, transportation.asu.edu, that showcase all the research and all the people involved in transportation at ASU, that I invite you to visit that. And by that, I want to say thank you all for attending this presentation. This is my email and the website, TOMNET website, which is our transportation center at ASU, if you want more information about the studies that I highlighted today. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you so much. So at this time, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat section at the bottom of your screen. And if you want to ask a question directly to the doctor, you can click at the bottom of the screen on participants and then click on the raise your hand option. Bree will then call your name and unmute you so you can ask your question. After your question has been asked and addressed, though, we ask you click that button again so your raise your hand option goes away so we know that your question has been answered. So go ahead at this time, submit any questions and raise your hand now. Bree, I know Rudy Aguilar from Apollo High School has some students in a classroom that has already asked a few questions.
Really great questions. The first one, which we'll start with, which I think kind of helps open things up, is how did you know you wanted to work in transportation, and what education did you need to do this?
So I will respond in general. So depending on what you want to do in transportation engineering, that determines what education you need. You can enter transportation engineering by a bachelor in civil engineering, urban planning, electrical, even electrical and computer engineers are working with autonomous vehicles. That is also part of transportation engineering. But the core traditional transportation engineering is by civil engineering. And if you want to go to the government, industry, academia, then that defines if you want to get a master's degree, bachelor degree, or PhD. And then if I would highly encourage you, if you are a good problem solver, if you are interested in numerical analysis, those kinds of things, if you are interested in impacting policy and real life of human beings. These are the things that you should consider if you want to enter transportation engineering. But again, the best place to start is from civil engineering.
And I think there's a follow-up question of, does that include coding?
It depends again on what you want to do in transportation engineering. I wanted to add something to the previous question about myself. So I was studying civil engineering, and civil engineering has different domains. You can go to structural engineering, build a building, build a bridge. But again, the only domain of civil engineering that is really have widespread impacts on human life and all the people, like taking into account how many people use a highway. That's significant number of people. Then that's where it comes the impact of what we do in transportation engineering. And it is a very critical moment in this field, because this field is facing very disruptive changes right now. And people who are interested and have a passion to be impactful people have many opportunities in transportation engineering. And then when it comes to coding, it is I don't know if this is a negative question or positive. I don't know if you like coding that you ask this question, or you don't like it, because both ways are possible. You can be a very good coders and work on those simulation platforms that I showed you, build all of those from scratch, like, or you can be not interested in coding and be more on the planning and operation and management and policy side of transportation system. So it's a yes and no.
So to follow up, are there other successful women like you in transportation? And the key question here, do you make lots of money?
Who makes lots of money? Yes, I'm sure there are. Yeah, yes, I'm sure there are. Again, depending on when it comes to, if you are thinking about making money, again, depends on what you do in transportation. Generally speaking, after transportation, by a transportation degree, you can join academia if you get a PhD, or you can join industry or government. But if you join industry sectors, that's where you get more money. And if you can come up with designing systems to, for example, having your own company, having your own product, developing your own software, you know, the world doesn't have an end. It just goes on and on. If you want to make money, yes, you can make money in transportation, if that is your question. But it's not like a business word that it's a lot. You have to be, it's a scientific word. You have to come with an idea, invest in your idea, and invest time and efforts. And yeah.
And with that question, we had are there successful women like you in transportation? Do you see a lot of women around you, or is it?
Yes, yes, yes. So there is this video that I showed you at the end comes from Transportation Research Board. Transportation Research Board has, it's part of National Academy of Science, and they usually have an annual meeting in January in Washington, D.C. that most transportation professional, academics, people from industry all come to Washington, D.C. to meet annually. And I in that meeting, I think it's more than 14,000 people coming annually in that meeting. And in that meeting, you can for sure see, I would say, close to half women, 1/3 women, 1/3 women, but between 1/3 to half it's women. And yeah, and then I have been attending that meeting since 2009. Since 2009, I'm attending that. It's more than a decade. I'm attending that meeting almost every year. And then the portion of women are getting increased significantly since then. Since 10 years ago. If you are a woman, there is, and you are interested in this field, there is nothing about gender that wants to, there is nothing negative about being woman and being this, in this field. I want to put it this way.
Now we have a question, and this one has been in the news a lot. What's going on with the barges that keep getting backed up in the ports of America? Do you know anything about that? Do you have an opinion?
Actually, no. No. Yeah. That's kind of not even. I have to do more research on that to be able to. Yeah, it's more like a news political question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then somebody asked about construction. I think she was asking about more hands-on work than office engineering work. In terms of, are there a lot of positions that they could find within construction for the type of work that you do? Yes, no?
So the type of my work has nothing to do actually with construction. So transportation has two sides. One is a construction and hard side. One is the analysis and kind of soft side. And I'm completely on the analysis and soft side. But what we do in this side kind of shape and guide if we should build something on the construction side. And again, it's both sides have good, I mean, it depends on people interests and expertise on which sides want to join. But what I'm seeing right now is that like in terms of interstate highways, we are kind of at the moment that we are not going to build a lot more highways and interstate. Let me put it this way. So when we are not investing in a lot of highways and interstate, then we are not investing a lot of overpasses, underpasses, bridges, tunnels, and so on. But what we should do in the construction is to kind of maintain our existing infrastructure, like new pavement, how our bridges, what we have, and then how we want to manage the movement of people and goods on this existing infrastructure, which is getting, considering the increased demand and limited supply and limited capacity, it's getting challenging, but the technologies are providing very can provide an better future if we use them in a good way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And of course, I've got a construction zone in my background here. It's the light rail construction. So I'm sitting in a construction field office, and there are plenty of jobs in construction. So if you are hands-on, you can get a job right out of high school in construction, or you could go to school. There's so many different pathways. So if you want to be outside and hands-on jobs, there's plenty of those. So definitely be keeping that in mind, because you're part of making our communities, you know, strong and grow, and it's really exciting.
And if I could add, just I work with Bree on that light rail construction project, and we will have a tour. I'm shooting for at some point in 2022, early 2022, if we can meet in person, then inviting, you know, whoever wants to attend. There may be a somewhat limited space, but to see what opportunities are available on the construction side as well. So that will be in the future. Do you have any other questions that have come in, Bree?
Let's see here. I think we covered all the topics. There were some really good questions. Definitely some really cool information we got today. Thank you. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Then now it's the time to announce the winner of the prize for this event. So I want to thank HDR, who has donated a $25 Uber gift card. So I think Uber was mentioned in this presentation, so perfect timing with that. But during Dr. Khoeini's presentation, we randomly drew the winning student's name, and that person is in Rudy's class at Apollo, Julia S. So I will work with Rudy to get that gift card to you. But thank you everyone for joining us today for Dr. Khoeini's presentation. The session has been recorded and will be available on the WTS Metro Phoenix chapter website in the next few days. I will send meeting participants the link to access. The link will also be available on the Transportation U AZ Facebook and Instagram social media sites. So if you can, please forward the recorded virtual event link to other teachers, students, or other individuals who would be interested. And please encourage them to join us for the live sessions during the school year. and or view any of the past recorded sessions as well. So in addition, go to those sites for information for upcoming program events. So please don't forget to register and tell others about the November 16th event, which is at 3 p.m. Arizona time with Paul Basha. Once again, I am Michael Book. If you do have any program or event questions, please send me an email at michael.book@hdrinc.com. And again, thank you, Dr. Khoeini, for joining us and presenting today.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you all for attending this presentation.
No problem. Thanks, everyone.